Call an ambulance. No way.
After years, I saw Savannah again. In her arms, she cradled a small child. And if you looked closely, Savannah's belly was significantly swollen. The suddenness of it all brought my thoughts to a halt, but I knew I had to save Savannah and her child as quickly as possible. When I managed to gather my thoughts, Savannah made a certain request. My name is Emily, and I'm 60 years old. Currently, I'm helping my husband Jackson with his work, living a fulfilling life. Jackson is a potter. Originally, after graduating from college, I was just a regular office worker. However, a certain event led me to meet Jackson. At this event, potters sold their creations, and there were opportunities for pottery experiences. I wasn't interested in pottery, but a poster caught my eye, and I decided to give it a try. While looking around, I found a pottery workshop, and Jackson was the one who taught me. The experience got me so engrossed in pottery, seemingly out of nowhere, that I started visiting his home where he worked to buy his pieces. Jackson remembered me, and each meeting was filled with various conversations and excitement. Eventually, our relationship evolved from craftsman and customer to lovers. After 3 years of dating, we got married. Jackson told me to pursue whatever I wanted, but I was interested in pottery, so I decided to help him. When we got married, Jackson's parents had already retired from pottery, which made me want to help him even more. Then, we had a child. We named her Savannah, pouring all our love into her. When Savannah was about 3 years old, Jackson and I wanted her to enjoy pottery, so we took her to the workshop, let her touch the creations, and even let her make some. Savannah, showcasing her innate talent, created wonderful pieces. It seemed like she found joy in pottery, happily looking at her own creations. Eventually, Savannah expressed her own desires. "I want to make plates," saying. Seeing her like this made me smile uncontrollably. As she grew, Savannah wanted to take over the family business, brightening our future even more. Jackson had several apprentices over the years, all kind and supportive of Savannah working with us in the future. After graduating high school, Savannah went to college, studying not only pottery, but also world history, culture, and arts. On her days off, when she didn't have to go to school, she helped with the family business, improving her skills. Having been taught by Jackson since she was young, her skills were astonishingly excellent. But Savannah never became complacent. Together with all the apprentices, she continued striving to spread the joy of pottery. 5 years after graduating college, Savannah was nearing 30, and I often thought about how quickly children grew up. Then one day, Savannah brought surprising news. "Mom, I'm getting married." "What? Married?" The sudden announcement shocked me, and I couldn't help but raise my voice. Savannah had a boyfriend since her college days. I had thought that they would eventually marry if things continued as they were, but hearing it for real left me speechless. The boyfriend's name is Benjamin. He had spoken to me a few times, and I thought highly of him. Savannah then shared the story leading up to their decision to marry. Apparently, the first proposal came around the time she graduated from college. Initially wanting to continue working with pottery at home, she asked for more time. True to his word, Benjamin gave her that time, continuing to propose over the years. Years later, when Savannah felt it was time to make a decision, she happened to see several photos of her friends with their children posted on social media. Seeing her friends happy made Savannah suddenly think that she should get married too. "I realized all my friends were married with kids, and there I was, not even close. After a lot of thinking, I decided I wanted to marry Benjamin." "That's how it was. Well, if that's what you've decided, neither Dad or I have anything to say against it." "Thank you." After accepting Benjamin's proposal, Savannah had some requests for him. Firstly, she wanted to continue working just as before, after marriage, and she didn't want to have children for a while. While it's true she saw her friends with children as happy, she wanted to keep her current lifestyle as much as possible after getting married. Benjamin agreed with her views, and so they decided to marry. However, there would inevitably be many changes from their previous life, and Savannah might find some of them bewildering. Their new home would be very close to ours, and I wanted to support them as much as possible. "If you ever have any troubles, come straight to me." Okay, thank you. The sensation of my daughter getting married was novel to me, and when she first told me, it felt surreal. But listening to Savannah, understanding her thoughts and plans reassured me. I hoped she would build a happy family. Yet this marriage would reveal Benjamin's true nature, leading to a crumbling of the happy life we envisioned. Savannah, having left home to live with Benjamin, seemed no different than before, visiting our home almost every day. However, 6 months into their marriage, I was informed they were moving far away due to Benjamin's job transfer. It turns out Benjamin had been warned of a possible transfer before marrying Savannah, but had kept it a secret. I couldn't fathom why he did that, but I guessed he feared Savannah might refuse marriage if she knew. Hearing this, I couldn't help feel distrustful of Benjamin. I wondered if he truly had Savannah's best interest at heart. Are you okay with this? I know it's odd to say, but what about asking for a long-distance job assignment? I wanted to continue my job too and suggested it, but he said he couldn't be without me. Since he's always accommodated my whims, I thought I should listen to his request this time. I see. If Savannah decided so, there was nothing more to say. I refrained from further comment. A few days after Savannah's report, they moved away quickly. The realization that they were truly gone saddened me. The apprentices who had grown close to her also felt the loss, highlighting Savannah's significant presence. Half a year later, as we were living our usual lives, Savannah called. She had given birth to a child, our first grandchild. While I was happy, several suspicions arose. If the baby was born a half a year later, it meant Savannah was already pregnant at the time of the move. She had said they didn't want children for a while, so had she changed her mind? Or had they decided to have a child knowing they were moving? Thinking of Savannah brought only growing distrust towards Benjamin. Are you okay with Benjamin, I mean? Benjamin? Oh yeah, it's fine. I see. If Savannah said she was fine, there was no further place for me to intrude. I told her, "You can always come back home," and hung up. Discussing Benjamin with Jackson, he too couldn't shake his feelings of distrust. But like me, he felt if Savannah was okay, we couldn't intervene. After discussing, we arrived at this conclusion. We thought about visiting if the situation got worse, keeping in touch as much as possible. However, after the call about the grandchild being born, all communication ceased. Worried, I tried contacting them, but it was Benjamin who answered, not Savannah. Hello, Benjamin? Where's Savannah?
Savannah's in the shower right now.
Oh, is that so? A few days later, I called during the daytime, thinking Savannah, now a housewife, might answer, but no one did. Trying again at night, Benjamin picked up, repeating that Savannah was in the shower and I couldn't speak to her. I was calling Savannah's mobile phone after all. I couldn't understand why Benjamin always answered. Why is Savannah never available? Even when I call during the day, no one answers.
What do you mean, why? I told you, she's in the shower. I don't know about the daytime.
I was taken aback by his confrontational tone and fell silent. Taking advantage of my silence, Benjamin hung up. Despite several more attempts, Benjamin kept saying things like, "Can you stop calling? The baby's crying." Or, "Aren't you being a bit persistent?" Saying things like this. My distrust in Benjamin only grew, but when he explained the reason for his hostility, it strangely made sense.
Look, Savannah said she doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. Can you please stop calling now?
What? Is that really what Savannah said?
She said she wanted to escape from your strict pottery teaching as soon as possible. There were apprentices, and that it wasn't easy to leave, but she's glad she finally did.
That can't be.
Do you think I'm lying? If I were, wouldn't it be strange that you can't get through to Savannah during the day? She decided not to answer your calls. Maybe it's time you understand that.
I was in disbelief. Before I could say anything, Benjamin pressed on.
Can't you tell by my attitude that you're not wanted? I thought you'd realize eventually. You really lack understanding.
If that's the case, you should have said so sooner. We never saw Savannah suffer.
You're bad at taking hints, so please don't contact us anymore.
Benjamin hung up after saying that. Wait a minute. My calls went unanswered.
and I couldn't hear Savannah's voice. Feeling empty, I realized further contact was impossible. Though I thought it persistent, I tried calling the next day at noon, but it seemed to be blocked. Benjamin must have set it up to protect Savannah. Reflecting on Benjamin's behavior and words, it all made a strange kind of sense. Was Savannah truly afraid of us? The thought made me instantly sad. Upon returning home, I shared the story with Jackson. He too looked sad and was at a loss for words. Then we should stop interfering, right? Yes, I guess so. I can't believe Savannah was suffering that much. We convinced ourselves and decided not to contact Savannah ever again. 4 years later, our business was thriving with sales and achievements increasing. My income and achievements were higher than before, and not only my husband and I, but also my disciples were happy. The apprentices, happy with their progress, had come and gone, some becoming independent. We found someone willing to continue the family business, bringing us peace of mind. Not that we had forgotten Savannah. On the contrary, we worried daily. But to avoid frightening her further, we refrained from reaching out. Then one day, an unbelievable incident occurred. It was during a typhoon. The weather was severe, forcing us to close the business for the day. Despite the unfortunate weather, it was nice to spend time with my spouse. As it got darker outside and Jackson and I were sleeping, it must have been around 1 a.m. Suddenly, awakened by the doorbell, who could it be at this hour? Jackson, too, woke up from the doorbell, turned on the light, and looked at me. Who is it at this hour? Who could it be? The doorbell continued to ring, and we hesitantly headed to the front door. Bracing himself, Jackson opened the door, and there an unexpected figure stood. Dad? Mom? Savannah? It was Savannah. In her arms, she held a girl, limp and unconscious. Surely our granddaughter. She seemed to be breathing, but was clearly in a dangerous state. And upon closer inspection, Savannah's belly was swollen. Savannah, are you pregnant? Yes, 9 months. The child inside her could be in danger too. We should take them to the hospital before asking any questions. At that moment, please call an ambulance, Savannah pleaded. However, Jackson refused her request. Call an ambulance? No way. Surprisingly, Jackson spoke again to Savannah, this time with a gentle voice. With this typhoon, who knows when an ambulance could get here? I'll drive you to the emergency room. But Jackson had been drinking. Therefore, I prepared the car and took them to the hospital. Upon arrival, they were examined. The diagnosis was severe malnutrition for both Savannah and our granddaughter. Both were admitted to the hospital. Fortunately, the unborn child seemed unaffected. We hoped they would receive treatment and soon be well enough to leave. We decided to wait to hear the full story. Relieved to be at the hospital, Savannah lost consciousness during the examination. I had Jackson bring clothes for Savannah and our granddaughter, while I stayed sleeping by Savannah's side. The nurse would look after the granddaughter. Savannah's face bore signs of fatigue and sleep deprivation. Not knowing what happened since they moved, but it seemed her spirit was heavily taxed, I quietly waited for her to wake. Around 11 a.m., Savannah woke up. Mom? Savannah. She seemed to have slept well, her complexion slightly better than the day before. Still, we couldn't let our guard down. I called a nurse to inform them that Savannah was awake. After the doctor's examination and returning to the room, I softly asked Savannah, Savannah, are you okay? I knew she wasn't fine, but I wasn't sure how to start the conversation without scaring her. Speaking gently, Savannah smiled weakly and replied, Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. That's good. I'm sorry for startling you. Don't be sorry. I was surprised. But you're not a bother at all. Savannah didn't seem afraid of me at all. In fact, she appeared relieved. We continued our conversation as I helped her back into bed. Before being Benjamin's wife, she was my and Jackson's daughter. After all, as a parent, why did she come to my house in such a terrible state? Many questions about her terrible state and her late-night visit lingered. but I felt it best not to pry too much. I decided to wait until Savannah was ready to talk. Even if she never spoke about it, I wanted to respect her feelings. A few days later, Savannah had fully recovered, her smile seemingly brighter. The awkwardness of our reunion faded, and I felt relieved she was opening up to us. One day, as Jackson and I approached Savannah's room, she looked serious. I tried to interact with her as usual, wondering what was wrong. Despite her usual smile, something was different. Concerned, I listened to Savannah with a grave look, said, "Can I talk about what happened after we moved?" Surprised, Jackson and I realized Savannah was ready to share. "Yes, we'd like you to talk, if you're comfortable." "Okay, thank you." After hearing our responses, Savannah began to share her story. It was unbelievable. Apparently, Benjamin was a terrible man. He had proposed, and at first she had accepted. Having been lovers for many years, she thought she knew everything about Benjamin, but Savannah came to know his true nature only after getting married. Benjamin was extremely possessive, always wanting her to only have eyes for him. He made her cut off all her friendships, didn't allow her to work, and forbade her from leaving the house. Her mobile phone was confiscated, and she was completely cut off from the outside world. The last contact she had before her phone was taken away was when she messaged me about the birth of her child. So why didn't she reach out for help? She thought it wouldn't be possible to get help. It seems Benjamin had convinced Savannah that we all hated her, that she could only rely on him. Shocked by these words, Savannah became too afraid to talk to us. There were various other restrictions in her daily life as well. She wasn't allowed to get proper sleep, was only allowed 1 meal a day, which was just a piece of bread. Even the use of the shower and the toilet was restricted to certain times, and those were the only times she could leave her room. Although I have never been in such a situation, just hearing about it was enough to understand how trapped she felt. The reason she managed to escape was because she saw her child lying weakly beside her. Since the birth, her child had been forced to live a far from decent life. She realized it was her lack of courage that led to this lifestyle. She thought, even if something happened to her, she wanted her child to have a decent life at least. After much thought, escaping seemed to be the only option. Though she believed we hated her, she decided to return to her parents' home and seek help. Once she made up her mind, things moved quickly. Savannah sneaked away from Benjamin's watchful eye and ran away from the house. And that's how she ended up at our place. After hearing Savannah's story, everything made sense. Just to be sure, we asked if she was afraid of us, but she shook her head no. "Mom, he lied to you too, huh?" "Yeah. When it's explained, it's easy to believe. I'm sorry I didn't notice anything." Savannah shook her head again at my words. Then we proceeded to inform the police and file a report. A female officer came to the hospital room to listen to the details. Taking the situation seriously, the police raided the house where Benjamin was supposed to be moving to, but by then he was already gone. Knowing that Savannah had escaped, he must have panicked and gone looking for her somewhere. This led to the realization that Benjamin could appear in front of Savannah at any time, and the police strengthened their patrol around the hospital and our home. A few weeks later, Savannah was discharged from the hospital after giving birth. The baby was born healthy, which was a relief. Eventually, everyone was discharged safely, and they began living in our house. For a while, we left the family business to an apprentice, and Jackson stayed home all the time, which was reassuring. It's still not safe to let our guard down, but it's nice to see Savannah smiling again, like she used to. If possible, I'd like us to continue living a happy life. That's what I had hoped for, but reality didn't go as smoothly as expected. It happened on a day that was supposed to be just another calm afternoon. While we were making lunch with Savannah, we heard a noise coming from upstairs. No one was up there. Jackson, who had been relaxing on the couch, seemed to have heard the noise too. "I'll go check upstairs," and said. We hadn't been this cautious about noises before, but ever since Savannah's incident, we've been living each day with heightened vigilance. I told Savannah and my grandchild to stay close to me as I waited.
mobile phone in hand, hoping Jackson would come back soon. Then, from upstairs, we heard what sounded like an angry voice.
"Hey, what are you doing?"
Someone had intruded, and there was a confrontation. I immediately called the police. Later, Jackson told us what had happened at that moment. He went upstairs and quietly entered the room where the noise was coming from. There, he found Benjamin. Benjamin, upon seeing Jackson, seemed surprised.
"Benjamin, how did you get in here? What are you doing?" "Shut up. Where's Savannah? She must be here, right? I came to take Savannah back. I can't let her be with people like you." "Calm down. Shut up."
Benjamin, greatly agitated, lunged at Jackson. Jackson managed to restrain him, wondering how to alert us downstairs to call the police. Just then, the police arrived. Just hearing about it was enough to feel the intense tension. Afterwards, when Benjamin was being taken away by the police, he caught sight of Savannah and exclaimed,
"Savannah, why did you betray me? I love you so much. Why would you do this? I only came to pick you up today."
Benjamin's love for Savannah was completely twisted. Thinking about Savannah having to endure that kind of love was heart-wrenching. Glancing at Savannah, she had a sad look on her face. Then, Benjamin was rearrested for kidnapping, breaking and entering, and carrying a knife with the intent to harm me and Jackson, among other charges. It's hard to know what led Benjamin to express his love in such a distorted way, but I suspect it had something to do with his childhood. However, I heard that Benjamin's parents had passed away. What happened to Benjamin is something that only he might know now. Months later, Benjamin was convicted and sent to prison. This should keep us safe for a while. But given Benjamin's obsession, he might look for Savannah after his release. So we've been discussing as a family what to plan before that happens. For now, we're living happily in our home. Savannah has even taken up pottery, spending time in the workshop creating when she feels like it. My grandchild, initially wary, has now opened up, spending time playing or helping Savannah with her pottery. Despite the long periods we were apart, being together and seeing everyone's smiles is what makes me happiest. It warms my heart and makes me appreciate the beauty of family all over again. My only wish now is to keep everyone's smiles safe.